over to Editor-in-Chief Rahul Shivshankar joining us live on India Upfront.
Thanks indeed, Christine. Thanks indeed, viewers. It's open season. India is being watched, and its executive and judiciary is getting lectures on democratic principles. After the United States, where the courts have robbed half its citizenry rights over their bodies and hate is shot out of a barrel of a gun, it's Germany, yes, Germany, that is teaching India how to run its affairs so as to uphold constitutionalism. Germany's lecture is even more galling than that we got from the United States. For here is a nation that till the last quarter of 2022 was lecturing the world against siding with Russia in the Ukraine war while it was conveniently buying Russian oil. In fact, viewers, out of all the European countries, it was the biggest purchaser of Russian oil. It was financing Russia's war on Ukraine. Now it claims it has ended its dependence, but has replaced Russian oil with Kazakh oil. Yes, viewers, it is buying oil from Kazakhstan that has one of the world's worst human rights records and where authoritarianism has been a norm. Now all this is happening, according to some observers and many within the BJP, because Rahul Gandhi had recently implored the West, particularly the United States and European powers, to criticize India's alleged slide into autocracy under PM Modi. He had said, and viewers, I'll play that out in just a few moments. He had said that he was shocked that the United States and Europe as a whole were not commenting on this. But first listen, viewers, to the German Foreign Ministry and then the US State Department spokesperson. Listen in closely.
Wir haben das erstinstanzliche Urteil gegen den indischen Oppositionspolitiker Rahul Gandhi zur Kenntnis genommen, ebenso wie die Suspendierung seines Parlamentsmandats. Nach unserer Kenntnis stehen Herrn Gandhi gegen das Urteil Rechtsmittel offen. Dann wird sich zeigen, ob dieses Urteil Bestand hat und ob die Voraussetzung für die Suspendierung des Mandats überhaupt gegeben ist. Wir erwarten, dass die Standards in Bezug auf die Unabhängigkeit der Justiz und demokratische Grundprinzipien auch für das Verfahren gegen Rahul Gandhi gelten.
Respect for the rule of law and judicial independence is a cornerstone of any democracy, and we're watching Mr. Gandhi's case in Indian courts, and we engage with the government of India on our shared commitment to democratic values, including, of course, freedom of expression. In our engagements with our Indian partners, we continue to highlight the importance of democratic principles and the protection of human rights, including freedom of expression, as a key to strengthening both our democracies.
Now you heard the Germans, viewers. This is what they said. We have taken note of the verdict of first instance against the Indian opposition politician Rahul Gandhi, as well as the suspension of his parliamentary mandate. And then he goes on to say, or she goes on to say, Annalena Baerbock, we expect that the standards of judicial independence and fundamental democratic principles will equally apply to the proceedings against Rahul Gandhi. Viewers, has India ever taken a position like this? For example, when it came to the United States and the killing of a young black man at the hands of the US police 2 years ago? No, viewers. We didn't talk about standards of judicial independence, democratic principles, but the Americans are giving us a lecture reminding us that the rule of law and judicial independence are cornerstones of democracy. Because the reason why Rahul Gandhi's speech is being linked to the intervention is because of the nature of his remarks. And those remarks he made a few weeks ago in the UK. Listen in to those remarks.
How would you react if something, a structure 3.5 times Europe suddenly went non-democratic. Right? That's happened already. That's not something that is going to happen in the future. That's already happened. But there's no reaction. And if we're talking about Europe, that's the thing that shocks me. There's no reaction. Right? And of course, there are reasons for there not being a reaction. There is sort of trade and there's money and stuff like that. But Indian democracy is a public good. And if you're looking at the democratic structure, it is the single most important public good.
Well, viewers, the Congress party couldn't be more delighted. In fact, it's come out and expressed its happiness and it's welcomed the German intervention. And let me tell you what Digvijay Singh has said. He said, "Thank you, Germany Foreign Affairs Ministry, for taking note. Democracy compromised through Rahul's persecution." That's what he said. Of course, he was immediately then challenged by Nirmala Sitharaman, Union Finance Minister, who said MOU with Communist Party of China with opaque contents, plead for help to change government when abroad, thank them when help forthcoming, any more proof needed. I suppose she is saying that is any more proof needed that Congress is being supported by a foreign hand, and so forth. Viewers, there are other Congress leaders who came out. Some of them were also happy that the world's media is writing about all of this. Others said that, look, the onus now is on the center to respond to Germany and United States. Listen into some of these other Congress reactions that have come in.
Media from all over the world, they are writing against this sentence against Rahul Gandhi. Bharatiya Janata Party should learn a lesson from this. So many leaders of BJP are raising questions against us. Why they are protesting? काले कपड़े क्यों पहन रहे हैं? They should go through the statement of these leaders, world leaders.
ये तो सरकार को जवाब देना चाहिए. सरकार के संबंध होते हैं, हमारी एम्बेसी है और सरकार के संबंध होते हैं और सरकार जर्मनी के साथ और यूरोप के और जितने देश हैं उनके साथ हमारे देश के अच्छे संबंध हैं. तो वहां पर अगर कोई ऐसी प्रतिक्रिया करता है, ऐसा प्रश्न उठाता है, तो उसका जवाब हम कैसे देंगे? उसका जवाब तो सरकार को देना चाहिए.
There is a man who has fled this country, who is in the middle of several controversies. He sits in foreign land and he is speaking in a democratic semblance, in a democratic system. He is speaking against a political leader like Rahul Gandhi. He is threatening him. What action is Kiran Rijiju willing to take?
Viewers, has the present crop of Congress leaders forgotten its own history? That's the fundamental question. At one time, the Congress was not just suspicious, but totally allergic to the idea of any foreign interference in India's internal affairs. In fact, on numerous occasions, since right after independence, the Congress has accused foreign players of trying to destabilize India, especially when Congress prime ministers were facing domestic challenges. Now, contrast this with the Congress under Rahul's influence, where it actively solicits foreign help to fight its battles here against Modi's BJP and the Prime Minister himself. Let me take you over some of these instances, viewers, and let's show you what I mean. Let's first talk about Indira Gandhi. In 1976, when the emergency was in full force, she warned foreign powers, do not interfere in India's affairs. We don't care for their criticism. This was all in an interview, viewers. Certain foreign powers always belittle India's achievements, belittle Aryabhatta and Pokhran nuclear test. Now, viewers, the Congress and the Chinese Communist Party signed an MOU, very opaque, no one knows what it's about. It's never been made public. This happened in 2008. And at that time, viewers, the number 2 most important man in China was Xi Jinping, who is today, of course, an authoritarian leader of China. Look at Jawaharlal Nehru. Because he came up with the Panchsheel Treaty, where it was clearly written in, locked in. There can be no stability unless all aggression, all imperialist domination, forced interference in other nations' affairs end completely. It's completely against the idea of any power interfering in any other nation. And now, viewers, you look at Rahul Gandhi. He told a US envoy in 2009, and this all appeared in WikiLeaks cables. And the reason those cables can't be dismissed is because America has been waging a campaign to get hold of the person who published those WikiLeaks cables, because, viewers, he was accused of divulging national secrets. So obviously, these have not been denied. So what did Rahul Gandhi tell this US envoy? He said, growth of radicalized Hindu groups more concerning than Lashkar-e-Toiba backing the Muslim community. Radicalized Hindu groups create religious tensions and political confrontations. In a sense, viewers, inviting the United States or any other power that cares to listen to focus on what he believes was the rise of the BJP, which was, of course, happening from then on. Dr. Manmohan Singh in Parliament, viewers, he came out and says, we are emerging as one of the important players on the world stage. Many forces would not like to see India realize its true place. We must not play into their hands. He was talking about foreign forces, viewers. This was in 2011. And now you have Manishankar Iyer. The first and foremost thing is to remove Modi. So when the Congress is out of power, this is what Manishankar Iyer said. Where did he say it? In Pakistan. Bring us, that is the Congress, back to power and remove them. There is no other way to better relations. He was answering a question on a live TV interaction, viewers. Then you had Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2012 on the Kundakulam project, the protests at that time that were taking place. And he said, foreign hand nuking Tamil Nadu nuclear power project. This is what he said. And viewers, after the Congress exits office, Mr. Salman Khurshid, who was a prominent minister in the UPA under Dr. Manmohan Singh, goes to Pakistan and says, your Prime Minister took a brave, far-sighted decision. He's talking about Nawaz Sharif. What we said and did made things uncomfortable for Pakistan after the visit. So apologizing for India's stance against Pakistan, viewers. Shimla Accord signed by Indira Gandhi and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in 1972. This is the most definitive document, viewers, where the Congress party said, no way will we ever have third-party mediation in this particular issue, the tensions between India and Pakistan. Two countries are resolved to settle their differences by peaceful means, through bilateral negotiations or by any other peaceful means. No question of a third party. Now, of course, viewers, third-party voices, government agencies and their voices are given primacy. This is what Shashi Tharoor said on the USCIRF, which reports to the US Congress. He said, no Indian can be happy that USCIRF deems India a country of particular concern. NRIs welcomed it and appealed to GOI to curb acts of incitement and social boycotts. The USCIRF had said that our democratic credentials had been shaken, viewers, and we were becoming a peculiarly communal country with a communal polity. All that is now lapped up by the Congress. It's the same Congress, viewers, just that its DNA seems to have changed. And let's open this up, because a few days back the Prime Minister warned that as the polls draw closer, desperate opponents will clutch every straw to try to destabilize, weaken India so that it reflects poorly upon him. Let's play out that, in fact, that soundbite from the Prime Minister. Do we have it ready? We can play it out. Okay, let's play it. Thank you.
इसलिए आज भारत को रोकने के लिए हमारी इस नींव पर चोट की जा रही है, संवैधानिक संस्थाओं पर प्रहार किया जा रहा है, उन्हें बदनाम करने का अभियान छेड़ा जा रहा है। उनकी क्रेडिबिलिटी, उनकी विश्वसनीयता खत्म करने की साजिश की जा रही है। जो लोग भ्रष्टाचार में लिप्त हैं, उन पर जब एजेंसियां कार्रवाई करती हैं तो एजेंसियों पर हमला किया जाता है। जब कोर्ट कोई फैसला सुनाता है तो कोर्ट पर सवाल उठाए जाते हैं।
Let's throw this open to debate. Let's get in Sanjay Jha and the BJP national spokesperson, Shahzad Poonawala, first off into this. And I just want to ask you, Mr. Sanjay Jha, today we have a situation where the Congress is welcoming unsolicited advice from countries like Germany, who should be the last, in fact, to stand in judgment of anyone else, who are steeped, their foreign policy is steeped in hypocrisy and a certain degree of, how should one put it politely, duplicity. That's the only word that really comes to mind. So Sanjay Jha, foreign aid, you can't fight your own battles, you can't make an impression on the Indian public, you need foreign governments to speak for you, to lecture. Is that how weak the party has become today? Your own leaders are coming out and welcoming this foreign intervention when you have a hoary past, where you've had stalwarts like Indira Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, all related to Rahul Gandhi, who said, never look our way, we can handle ourselves. Thank you very much. How do you see this?
Okay. Rahul, in the interest of an impartial debate, I will appreciate it if I'm not interrupted at all, because I won't take too long. And I think it's important that since I represent an opposition voice, I'm able to articulate what I believe ought to be said on this debate. So I'll keep it very brief, but don't interrupt me. Thank you very much. If you want me to tell you what is the one most brazen example of the most crude form of foreign intervention that I have ever seen in international politics or diplomacy, it is a prime minister of the world's largest democracy campaigning in the middle of a presidential election in America for the incumbent candidate. Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar. It was embarrassing. It actually shamed our great country, and I think will go down as a case study as to how one should never practice international diplomacy. Now let me answer your question. Both the countries, the US and Germany that you have quoted, they are both members of the G20, where we are hosting it as the mother of democracy, although a lot of people in India are convinced it is a murder of democracy. Now, you are, by the way, a very good student of international relations. You think they don't have their own independent foreign affairs departments? You think when we go and raise FDI, etc., and by the way, I have worked in international finance, so I can tell you, countries that invest in another country spend significant resources in looking at political risk and country risk. They look at what is the democratic health. They look at whether the country is facing a democratic recession or whether its constitutional strengths are being evaporated or are they being strengthened. Now, let me give you a few cases that will establish my point. If the BJP is really so concerned that this is foreign interference, which everybody who is watching your show knows it is not, why are they sitting here in TV studios, bhaiya? Tell Mr. Modi ji to go and call the ambassador of Germany and the US and fire them and say, why are you intervening in my domestic political situation? What are they waiting for? Why are they wasting time tweeting against Rahul Gandhi and Digvijay Singh? And now let me give you 3 quick examples, and I would like the BJP spokesperson to respond to it. Barack Obama was the chief guest during the Republic Day parade in 2015, Rahul. You know what he said when he went back to the US on India? And I quote him, Mahatma Gandhi would have been shocked at the intolerance in the country once famous for its diversity. Did you hear a chew from the BJP? क्या मोदी जी ने कुछ इसके बारे में चर्चा किया मन की बात में? No, he was quiet. Number 2, Joe Biden, the current president of America, has talked about being against the CAA and the NRC. Have you heard Mr. Modi or anybody tell him, you know, this is our domestic issue? No. You are aware, Rahul, because I debated it with you on Times Now once, Kamala Harris, current vice president of America, has talked about human rights violations in Kashmir. Have we heard the BJP government have the courage to say, you know what, this is our sacrosanct matter, don't touch it? These guys are cowards. They have absolutely no courage of their own conviction. Their foreign policy is only for domestic politicking. And I'll give you one more point. The current Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, he has talked about religious freedom in India. Have you seen anybody from the BJP, forget a spokesperson, I mean spokespersons are anyway frontline soldiers. Have you heard the foreign minister even comment on it? Rahul, thank you very much for giving me the time. I think this was important to set the platform for today's conversation.
I think you do know what Mr. Jaishankar told Mr. Blinken to his face. But that aside, I just want to come back and bring in Shehzad Poonawalla for a quick response, unfiltered response to what Mr. Jha said. Mr. Poonawalla.
Rahul, in the same spirit that we have heard Sanjay Jha, now I hope he will also accord the same courtesy to others. First of all, let's take Sanjay Jha's parameter of FDI, because any country before investing in India would do thorough research. And Rahul, Siddharth would confirm for you, between 2008 to 14, total FDI received in India $289 billion, and between 2014 to 22-23, $524 billion. So by the parameter of investment banker and suspended leader from Congress party, Mr. Sanjay Jha, India has only become more democratic and stable, and therefore the foreign countries are doing better research and are investing twice as much as they did during the UPA tenure. And by Sanjay Jha's own parameter, there was less democracy and less stability during Manmohan Singh's era. Thank you, Sanjay Jha, for confirming that. Point number one. Point number two, Sanjay Jha's only grouse is that Modi ji has gone and said on foreign soil, Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar. There was a time in this country, Rahul, on a lighter note, and Sanjay can laugh a little more after that, that there was one grandmother of emergency who would constantly complain, foreign intervention, that countries are intervening in our internal affairs. But today, Sanjay Jha's grouse with Modi ji is that he has gone and intervened in a foreign election. But I don't want to sidetrack to that issue. Let me come to the issue proper. Rahul, what was the main issue? And that main issue can be summed up by one shloka from Mahabharata. Paraspar virodhe tu vayam panchathate shatam, parayastu vigre prapte vayam panchadik shatam, which means that when the Pandavas and Kauravas fight each other, they may be 5 and 100, but when they fight a foreign force, it is always 105, and therefore even when Narasimha Rao wanted, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the great leader of the opposition, went on United Nations territory and he defended India against Pakistan, not thinking I am defending my country, a government or not a government. He thought about the country. But today what do you have? The leader of so-called opposition, he goes on foreign soil and demands intervention of foreign countries, not once but again and again, whether it is Manishankar Ayyar, whether it is his conversation with Nicholas Burns, whom he is accusing the US administration of so many things, or whether it is the MOU with China, or whether it is the Doklam situation, when how he had given dhoka. We have seen at that time he goes and asks for intervention, and lo and behold, few days later the intervention has come. Not 2-3 questions. Sanjay Jha said, point number one, that we should recall US ambassador on this kind of situation, or German ambassador, sorry. He thinks that it is so grave that the German ambassador should be recalled, and I will not discuss the strategy India should take on national television, but if that is the graveness of the situation, why is Digvijay Singh still in the party? Because Digvijay Singh has gone ahead and tweeted saying that congratulations and thank you for intervening. Point number one. So point number two, now Mr. Sanjay Jha, you set the parameters that we should hear each other. Now you are constantly giving your commentary, and it happens you'll even come down to your broken Bihari accent the moment you start getting exposed. That is just 5 seconds away.
Okay.
Now secondly, I want to ask that Mr.
No, let him speak now.
No, I am not lying. You can record it silently also. Please explain to me that if the situation is so grave that this kind of drastic step needs to be taken, then Sanjay Jha, why is Congress not sacking Digvijay Singh? Why is Congress party not sacking Praveen Chakravarti, who openly supported statement of George Soros? Why is Congress party not sacking Rahul Gandhi, who asked US establishment for Nicholas Burns to intervene into India? Now first take a stand on that. Secondly, this is not a sahyog, it is a socha samjha prayog. every time you are seeing US or some kind of foreign countries and foreign companies, there is an arc mein joli for which Rahul Gandhi and some elements here become the purveyors of their propaganda, and for any other country that is
Rahul, a quick rejoinder to another blatant lie.
Look, we do not need lectures from... Please. We do not need... Rahul, may I just complete?
Yeah.
Rahul, countries which have never given an opportunity to anybody out of the Christian faith to become their chancellor and president, those who continue to take oath of their highest offices on the Bible and not on the constitution, need not lecture a country like India. This is not an attack on any government. Today the attack is being made on the freedom of our independence of our judiciary, which every person sitting on this panel also agrees about. It is an attack in that sense on our constitutional principles, and if Digvijay Singh thinks that he should celebrate an attack on constitutional principles, it exposes the Congress's commitment towards constitution and the values of the constitution.
Since the name
1975 we know
of Mr. Jaishankar was taken and an example was sought to be cited about India not at any level rebutting the United States, let me tell you that there is a long history, viewers, of this government rebutting the reports that have come out of the USIRCF, which is a body that reports to the American Congress, and it calls itself a human rights watchdog around the world. India has also, and let me tell you, in 2019, Mr. S. Jaishankar refused to meet a congresswoman because she had introduced a bipartisan resolution with another Republican representative calling on India to uphold basic human rights in Kashmir. Jaishankar was to meet the House Foreign Affairs Committee. During his visit to the United States in December 2019, he cancelled the meeting because this person was in the group and the congressional team refused to drop her and the meeting was cancelled. So that is the level to which this government has gone to press its point. Also, I just want to very quickly run you by what Mr. Jaishankar has told the West, in particular Europe, about the way it views the world, on an open mic in the company of his counterpart in Germany very recently. And also, viewers, he has called out the hypocrisy of the West when it comes to talking about the situation in Ukraine and India's own support for Russia, etc., etc. So let's be very clear here. The Indian government hasn't taken a step back. The question that I was wanting to ask you, Mr. Sanjay Jha, you didn't answer, and I gave you all the time to answer. So you obviously skirted it. You had no intention of answering it, and which was, how is the Congress party that refused foreign intervention today calling for it? Why is it going back on its own stated commitment to India's sovereignty and the need to uphold India's sovereignty? You didn't answer that question. Now you've run out of time. There are three others. No, I'm sorry.
Rahul Gandhi at no point in London talked about it. It is BJP's bunkum
I'll play that soundbite again.
Exposed.
No, please. Sanjay Jha, don't try to... In fact, he did a U-turn.
The BJP
52 hours later, he did a U-turn. Let me tell you. One second, viewers. Let me also tell you this. Let me tell you this.
It's about Gautam Adani.
One second. No, Mr. Jha.
Is defending Gautam Adani on every aspect. That's why a new headline.
Again, your own member of your party approached the Supreme Court and got a favorable order committing the Supreme Court to forming a committee to investigate these ties. So please, India's judiciary is not compromised. It listened to the opposition's voice, one of your own party people. And in fact, the TMC has opposed your demand for a JPC. So first go and teach the TMC
but Rahul,
why they have a problem. I don't want to get into a tutu meme, sir, please. You had your chance. Let the others. There are three others.
I'm saying the Supreme Court is not investigating transactions and offshore tax.
Mr. Sanjay Jha, please. Let the others speak. There are others also. They haven't come here to, just hear you. Let the others speak. Let me bring in Mr. Sai Deepak. Let me bring in Mr. Pai. Let me bring in your own compatriot from the Congress party, Mr. Bansal. Mr. Deepak, I just want to ask you this question. And it's a fundamental one. Are we today in a situation where an opposition party is hoping for foreign aid to give it a lifeline, to make a case against an incumbent government in this country? Or are we all wrong to assume this?
frankly speaking, I wouldn't be able to comment on the political aspect of it, but there is something more serious which Mr. Poonawalla hinted at and which I think merits attention. On the 22nd of March, just a few days ago, there was an event held where awards for journalistic excellence were given, and the editor of a leading newspaper of this country, in the presence of the Chief Justice of India, specifically reposed faith in the institution of the judiciary, calling it, in the words of the Chief Justice, the North Star, the Dhruva of Bharatiya democracy. So I assume that the media certainly continues to have faith in the impartiality of the judiciary and its commitment to the Constitution. Now, this entire episode has been triggered as a consequence of a decision of a court. And that decision is being called into question on grounds of being partisan, for political partisanship. And this has effectively become the reason and the trigger for the disqualification and the subsequent so-called interference of foreign parties. A Supreme Court and a judiciary which is constantly want to taking notice of all sorts of issues under the sun in the name of motor proceedings should take notice of the specific statements being made with respect to the outcome, the judicial outcome, saying that this particular verdict was arrived at because of a political pressure or because it is located in a particular state thanks to the dispensation in that particular state. The allegation of partisanship couldn't get more direct, and this has to be treated as a textbook instance of contempt. Now, I would actually suggest that someone from the BJP or anybody else move the Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court to take cognizance of these allegations. The external interference and all these aspects are in the realm of the executive, that the executive will handle it from a foreign policy perspective. But from a legal perspective, when someone makes these allegations, they are directly calling into question the manner in which a particular court of law has functioned, and that needs to be taken cognizance of. Nobody has been able to respond to what is the specific legal infirmity in the decision of the court, and why shouldn't it lead to a legal consequence by way of a disqualification. What is the slip between step number 1 and step number 2? And frankly speaking, in light of the meeting that was scheduled under the leadership and stewardship of the King of Baramati district in Maharashtra, frankly, who has benefited from this disqualification? I would always say that the BJP star campaigner is Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and his disqualification and his being removed from the parliament is the BJP's biggest loss, and perhaps a gain for everybody else who wants him out of that particular position. So I don't know what is it that the BJP stands to gain from the disqualification of Rahul Gandhi, because if anything, that gives him a smidgen of sympathy which he otherwise deserves for actually being in politics.
Okay, well, let me bring in Mr. Bansal on this point. Mr. Bansal, so you've heard Mr. Sai Deepak. He's made it very clear that in fact, if anything, the Supreme Court should suo moto go after the opposition. Many leaders in the Congress had attributed motives to the courts when they passed an order recently against Mr. Rahul Gandhi. So, are you part of the larger ecosystem that wants to weaken India's institutions? It's a very fundamental question.
Well, Rahul, I've been listening to all with all due respect to all the participants, what they had to say. Partly, they had their own...
Vivek Bansalji, forget about what the others have said. I've asked you a specific question. And the question is, should Mr. Digvijay Singh be encouraging... No, one second. Countries like Germany, who are no exemplars, by the way, of propriety or morality, to be lecturing India and Indian courts on the standards that they need to maintain. And how is that not contemptuous? This is the basic sum and substance of Mr. Sai Deepak's question. Can you please answer that?
No, you are in fact, first of all, let me just tell you that as far as this statement coming from German foreign embassy or this foreign minister is concerned, let me say that what all is happening. This is a...
So do you support it, yes or no?
No, listen.
Rahul, can I respond?
One second, Sanjay Jha, your name is not Mr. Bansal. I make it very clear, please.
I do have to get the time.
Mr. Bansal, yes, I'm asking you, do you support the German lecture to the Indian judiciary? It's a very simple question.
No, I definitely would be the last person that if they try to intervene, any foreign power has no business to interfere in the internal affairs of a country. That we ourselves would settle whatever grievances we have.
So, Mr. Bansal, if that is the case, I salute you. I want to then ask you, do you condemn Digvijay Singh for saying the following words? Thank you, German Foreign Affairs Ministry, for taking note. Democracy compromised through Rahul's persecution. And what is it that the Germans have said? Let me read out. We expect the standards of judicial independence and fundamental democratic principles will apply equally to the proceedings against Rahul Gandhi, as if anyone should have any doubt about our judiciary. Isn't this contempt?
Rahul, let me just answer that. As far as, first of all, you had put forth a question regarding Mr. Digvijay Singh. For that, I can simply say that he overshot. And
so should action be taken against him by the Congress party?
You see, that is for the party. I have given my point of view.
That's
action
bizarre.
or not action, that is to be decided by the top leaders of the party or the think tank of the party. And let me tell you one thing. In all,
Mr. Bansal, one second. Mr. Bansal, don't today deflect. It's a straightforward question. This is a very serious matter. Sai Deepak has told you it's a very serious matter. In fact, the judiciary has a right to proceed against contempt. Mr. Sai Deepak, on what basis are you making this?
One
second. So I'm asking you, Mr. Bansal, today a country, you are colluding with a country to impute. One second. Today your leader is colluding with a foreign country to impute motives to the judiciary in our country. You say that is not, Mr. Bansal, you say that is not right, but you say that Digvijay Singh, no action should be taken. Sanjay Jha is removed from his post for questioning the leadership.
There is certain decorum in the party. I said he overshot. Party leadership has to decide on this. I didn't say I didn't shield him. I didn't support him for this. I put forth my view. I think that's more than enough. And what all is happening in the country at the moment is definitely a matter of concern as far as
we'll sort it out. If it's a matter of concern, in 12 months, the electorate will vote. In a few weeks, it will vote in Karnataka. Now, one second, Mr. Bansal, the fact of the matter is, we have recourse to our own courts, to our own independent institutions, Mr. Pai. Should we not put faith in those, or should we? Should we welcome? Should we welcome?
No.
Mr. Mohandas Pai. Let me bring in.
But it gives us food for thought at the same time.
Sir.
It gives us food for thought.
Sir.
That we at the same time.
If India were to tomorrow get up and say, excuse me, if India were to tomorrow get up and say that the Supreme Court of America has done a huge disservice to 50% of Americans by seeking to appropriate their rights over their bodies, do you think America would care? It won't. We don't care. We don't care. But we do get bothered. No, one second. Let me finish, Mr. Bansal. I didn't interrupt you, please.
But if it amplifies with other countries participating,
Mr. Bansal, you yourself have said that Digvijay Singh has overreached. He has crossed the line. Is in the Congress party.
He hasn't.
You might think so, sir. You are suspended. At least he's a member of the Congress and he's not suspended. So wait, Mr. Jha. Wait your turn. You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. The point is, Mohandas Pai wants to come in on this.
You are also falling in line with Mr.
12 hours have passed.
Let me tell you that.
Wow.
Mr. Bansal is wrong.
Mr. Bansal has called Mr. Jha turncoat. That's wonderful.
No, not Mr. Sanjay Jha. I have said Mr. Shahzad, who was again and again hitting Mr. Sanjay Jha, saying that he has been suspended. and you are also towing the same line. So that is something not
two
very,
people
very
suspended,
nice, I would say.
two people suspended and kicked out by the Congress party for questioning the lack of democracy in the Congress, and the Congress wants a foreign government to interfere in India's democratic processes. This is ridiculous. Mohandas Pai, please. Mohandas Pai.
Can I respond to the advocate?
You will after Mohandas Pai. Mohandas Pai.
Rahul,
yeah.
Whatever Digvijay Singh says or does, the ultimate matter is, what do the people of this country really think about this? Everybody will condemn any statement by the United States or Germany against India. And these people who support those countries against their own countries will have to go to the polls, and they're going to lose support. They're committing seppuku. Seppuku is disgraceful suicide. Every single day, whatever goodwill Rahul got in Bharat Jodo is all gone because of his silly statements he made in the UK, where everybody saw the TV interview. Then he made a silly statement before some journalists, and all that is gone. Where is the support for him? These people are losing support and committing seppuku. I'm really shocked that how these people have taken leave of their intelligence and their ability to play politics, because politics is about coming to power. With all these statements, will people vote for them? I don't know. Will young people vote for them? Because young people are going to be the majority of voters. They're all very savvy about media. They love the country. They're very patriotic, much more than the earlier generation.
Okay, so you're saying the Congress is going to get punished by the patriotic Indian. Okay, Sanjay Jha, respond to Sai Deepak, and I want to Sai Deepak to respond to you right after that, and then Shehzad Poonawalla to respond to the charges that have been made against the BJP last. Yes.
Okay.
Sanjay Jha.
Since the advocate talked about judiciary and the Supreme Court, let me tell him what the Supreme Court has just said about Mr. Modi's government. It has called it impotent. It's unprecedented that the Supreme Court of India calls Mr. Modi's government impotent, incapable, incompetent in the matter of hate speeches. It's a matter of shame, my dear friend, and you cannot run away from it. Point number two, he talks about the BJP filing a contempt of court against the Congress. Well, let me tell you, we will be delighted, because you should know what the Supreme Court itself has talked about the lower courts. It has talked about how the lower courts need to improve their functioning, and the Supreme Court itself has said that in the matter of criminal defamation,
Mr. Jha, that is a point that the Congress party can make. That is not a point that Germany should be cheered by the Congress party for making.
No, 1 minute.
Germany can take a walk, and if you don't have the guts to say it and speak like a proud Indian, then, sir, too bad for you. Sai Deepak wants to respond. Sai Deepak wants to respond. 1 second, let him respond.
Is why do we have this problem? Because Mr. Modi's government is authoritarian, communal.
We have this problem.
Is watching us.
We have this problem because the Congress party is not finding traction on the ground, and it wants to invite foreign intervention to fight its battle and douse its fires for it. That's the problem. Very quickly, that's what the BJP has said. 1 minute, that's what the BJP has said. That's what your opponents are saying. That's what the voters are saying when they vote you out. Sai Deepak wants to respond to you. Let's not shout over each other, lower everyone's faders. Sai Deepak, yes.
I would request you to kindly please allow me to make an assumption.
Make your point.
If the Supreme Court has called the Modi government an incompetent and an impotent government, clearly the judiciary is capable of standing up for itself. Okay? And therefore, at the very least, the independence of the judiciary cannot be questioned. That's one. Two, I hope Mr. Jha actually takes a look at the Contempt of Courts Act. First, under Section 5, if the criticism is on the basis of the merits of the case, frankly, it is not contempt. However, if allegations are made and innuendos are issued with respect to the conduct of a particular judge, even if it's a subordinate judge, it needs to be initiated legally. But if it's aired in public without any basis, it translates to contempt. Now, from his own statements, all he's been able to make is that the Supreme Court has called the government impotent and incompetent.
No, Sai Deepak, it hasn't. First of all, let me fact check Sanjay Jha. Probably doesn't understand the difference between state and executive. The Supreme Court, the oral observation it made, and this is been quoted widely in the front page of the newspaper, and I would urge Mr. Sanjay Jha to pick up the Times of India that is right next to him in his study and go over the quote with me. It said, this is happening that is hate speech, because the state is impotent, state is powerless, state doesn't act in time, unquote, and will stop, quote, the moment politics and religion are segregated, unquote. The state, viewers, is not the government. Anyone with a basic understanding of civics will know this. The state comprises of at least, one second, three organs, the judiciary, the executive. One second, sir, now don't shout over me. I'm only quoting what the Supreme Court is. If you can't understand it and you misquote the Supreme Court, you're inviting trouble. I'm only guaranteeing my own channel and myself. One second, safety. Before the Supreme Court said that Rahul Shivshankar didn't fact check. A gentleman called Sanjay Jha was attributing motives and putting words in our mouth. So just to save my own skin, I have had to make this. Okay? Yes. Mr. Poonawala, quickly, make your intervention. I need to move on. Yes.
And what did the 4 judges of the collegium say when they said democracy is
let's assume, now Mr. Shivshankar, I have been patient. I have not interrupted even one time. I hope I can have that courtesy extended to me. Now, Rahul, let's, for argument's sake, not get caught into the fact that Sanjay Jha has exposed himself with his lack of understanding between state and executive, and let's assume that his allegation is absolutely correct, and he may give even examples of the recent judgments of the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court has taken center to, in some senses, task over many issues. So doesn't that contradict his point that the independence of the judiciary is absolutely pristine and cannot be called into question, especially by a foreign power, as has been said by J. Sai Deepak? Secondly, Digvijay Singh is a serial offender. He has not overshot for the first time, Mr. Bansal. He was telling a Pakistani journalist, once we come to power, we will reimpose 370. He was making statements like this about surgical strike and doubting the integrity and the ability of our armed forces. Right. But time and again, why is Digvijay Singh, who was the organizer of Bharat Jodo Yatra, given such a long rope that even Mr. Sanjay Jha has never extended? This indicates that Digvijay Singh's statement is actually not just Congress finding validation from a foreign power over its baseless allegations against the judiciary, but something more sinister, that the Congress party, which does its politics in India, is validating a foreign power to intervene. Yes. Forget on commenting on governments or commenting on issues in India, but commenting on the state of affairs in our judiciary, which is sacrosanct. And the Chief Justice of India, no less, has recently said that there is absolutely no executive pressure on the judiciary. Let me tell you. The Chief Justice, whom he likes to quote, whom they call as the rock star, has quoted not once but twice in Indian English that the independence of judiciary is absolutely impeccable. Now, do they not believe him? Okay. Is the one second. Let me just step in here. There's also another point that I wanted to quickly come in on. Sanjay Jha also talked about the 4 judges who came out and stood in the forecourt and said that democracy is dead. One of them joined the BJP, by the way, and is a member of parliament in the Rajya Sabha. So clearly he thinks that the BJP is doing one second, is doing a good enough job in upholding democracy. No, one second. He's a member of the Rajya Sabha. He may not have joined the BJP, but he was supported by them and he accepted their support. Okay? So please, if he thought it was such a bad government, he wouldn't have done it. Since you have mentioned these justices, sir, not me. Yes, Sai Deepak, very quickly, 30 seconds.
Just one final
I fact corrected you all through. Sir, please bear note. Yes, Sai Deepak.
We know for a fact that even the most low rank of activists who constantly bat for the left constantly get defense from the best of battery of lawyers of the Congress at every instance. Why is it that Rahul Gandhi himself has not got the very same legal representation which others have? Who stands to benefit from this is a question that people have to ask. I leave it at that.
Well, viewers, we're still waiting for Mr. Gandhi to file an appeal. Why he hasn't done so, of course, is best known to him and the Congress party. They have 30 days to do it in. Let's hope that they do and they get relief if they think their case is strong. And if they don't, let's hope that they don't start talking about the fact that our judicial independence is compromised.